So today I want to talk about what might be one of the craziest Nintendo Switch 2 reveal theories I've seen in quite some time. When I saw this, my initial reaction was just, oh, there's no way. And I definitely think there's no way. But I will say, I gotta give credit, this is interesting. There are interesting things at play here that I do want to talk about and kind of explain the thinking of why people think that this means the Nintendo Switch 2 is being revealed on November 10th and just how they got to that conclusion. So let's talk about this. So basically, this entire thing has to do with Amiibo restocks, but before that, we need to talk about Nintendo's current calendar lineup. So of course, October 6th, we got Detective Pikachu Returns, then there's a couple weeks there until Mario Wonder on October 20th, and then on November 3rd, and this is where we're talking about November, the main month here, November 3rd, we have WarioWare, but not only is WarioWare Move It coming out on November 3rd, we also have the Zelda and Ganondorf Amiibo for Tears of the Kingdom. Now, that might sound weird if you aren't super familiar with Nintendo and how they kind of launch accessories and Amiibo around pretty much anything they can get their hands on. A great example of this coming up is the Noah and Mio Amiibo for Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Those are releasing the same day next year as Another Code Recollection. Or, even right now, we have WarioWare releasing with Zelda Amiibo, and later in the month with Mario RPG on November 17th, we have the Splatoon 3 Deep Cut Amiibo. So that is a very normal practice for Nintendo to release Amiibo, even if it's from a different series, just on the same day as their big new game, because, I don't know, I guess they think Nintendo fans are at the store, why not release them the same day? So essentially, a lot of this rumor, or this theory, is based on the fact that typically, with new Amiibo releases, Nintendo releases them on the same day as a new game, or, in the case of what people are speculating, they think that Nintendo releases Amiibo restocks around announcements. Now, talking about restock specifically and not new Amiibo, typically those are lined up with new releases. Now, there are some that have been restocked around the announcements, and that's kind of where we're going with this. We'll get to that Switch 2 part in just a minute, but most Amiibo restocks happen around the time of a game release, with a few, I guess, notable exceptions. Most of the Amiibo restocks on this list have to do with game releases, so a great example of this would be something like Kirby. When Kirby Star Allies launched, we got a Kirby line of Amiibo restock, or when Animal Crossing New Horizons came out, they restocked the Amiibo cards. Usually, Nintendo restocks Amiibo around the release of a game. Just this year, we saw a ton of Zelda Amiibo, Breath of the Wild, and the more general Zelda line. A lot of those Amiibo were restocked around the time of Tears of the Kingdom's release. Or even before that with Fire Emblem Engage, a ton of Fire Emblem Amiibo were reprinted in January of this year. But there are a couple exceptions to this that kind of lead credence to the entire theory here, and we'll get to that. For example, and this is mostly pertaining to Smash Bros. Stuff, there were a lot of Smash Bros. Amiibo restocks around the time of specific announcements. So, for example, when E3 2018 happened and Smash Ultimate was really revealed and the Everyone Is Here trailer happened, a ton of the Smash Wii U and 3DS Amiibo got restocked. Same thing with the Ultimate Direct in August, same thing with the Isabelle announcement in the September 2018 Direct. From the looks of things, with Smash Bros. Specifically, they restock a lot of Amiibo around the time of the reveal. For other Nintendo franchises, it's usually just around the time of a new game release, but for Smash Bros. In particular, it looks like restocks usually happen around the time of a new fighter reveal, or some sort of mention of Smash Bros. In a Direct. Which, as someone who analyzes Nintendo and the company's movements and its marketing, that is interesting. But I feel like since it's really just Smash Bros. That we can use as an example here, I feel like Smash Bros. Is different. I feel like Smash Bros. Is something that really since 2013 up through when Sora came out, and now with the Sora Amiibo, really it's still going. We haven't seen a stop to Smash Bros. We got DLC for Smash 4 through the beginning of 2016, and then just 2 years later, we got the reveal of Smash Ultimates. And also, Smash is just the Nintendo Amiibo line. They don't have, like, the World of Nintendo Amiibo line. They just have the Smash Bros. Amiibo. That is the all-encompassing Nintendo figure line. Yes, it's called Smash Bros. So I guess if you want to look at it in terms of, like, analyzing when an Amiibo is restocked versus an announcement, that's fair, but Smash Bros. Amiibo getting restocked, to me, that out of every Nintendo franchise, that is not that telling, in my opinion. In fact, the most interesting one on here is from last year. In January of 2022, the Byleth amiibo got restocked just 2 weeks before the reveal of Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes. That is the main thing on this list that I can really look at and think, huh, that is a little weird, because at that point, that amiibo would have been like a year old. So it getting restocked specifically before the announcement of that Fire Emblem Warriors game, in which Byleth is one of the main characters, that is very interesting. And like I said, as someone who analyzes Nintendo's movements, I do think that is a little suspicious. So I can see why people are really reading into this data, but most of the restocks around announcements pertain to Smash, and I think you can't really look at Smash the same way as other Nintendo amiibo lines. That's just my opinion. But anyway, let's get into the meat of this here. So basically, a ton of amiibo are getting restocked on November 10th, which to a lot of people is very suspect because, as we've established, Nintendo likes to restock amiibo sometimes around the announcement or release of a game. So November 10th is the date that people think the Nintendo Switch 2 or next generation device is going to be revealed, because as we've established, Nintendo likes to potentially restock amiibo around announcements. Where I disagree there is most of those were around the release of a video game, but I digress. The idea is, why would Nintendo pack all of their releases on November 3rd and November 17th? And while this is a newer development, I have to say, to this theory's credit, it is incredibly suspect that they just announced a bundle pack version of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet with the DLC included on the cartridge, and then Part 2 will be a download. It is incredibly suspect that that is releasing on November 3rd. That is the same day as WarioWare. So if you were a Nintendo company and you're trying to like pad out your releases, have something every week, beat for beat, why would they not release that on November 10th? That is definitely a little weird. The amiibo getting restocked in question, this all comes from various retailers, so these are getting restocked. Here are the amiibo getting restocked. Specifically, it is the Series 2 of Smash amiibo. Off the top of my head, I know that's Luigi, that's Little Mac, that's Captain Falcon, the original Princess Zelda, Diddy Kong, and Pit. It was a pretty small wave, but those were the amiibo included in it. We are also getting a restock of the Super Mario line, Rosalina, and that gorgeous glow-in-the-dark Boo. I am excited to pick up that. That's hype that that's getting restocked, actually. The Wedding Mario amiibo from Odyssey, so that's Mario, Peach, and Bowser and their wedding attire. Those are getting reprinted. The Breath of the Wild champions, Wolf Link, Archer Link, and the Link's Awakening kind of chibi Link, those are all getting reprinted. And finally, the one that I think a lot of people are really looking at here as a reason for something happening on November 10th, the Metroid Samus amiibo. Not the Smash Bros. Samus amiibo, the Metroid one that released alongside Samus Returns is getting reprinted. So, wheeling it all back in here, ringing it all together, because Nintendo at times releases restocks of amiibo around the announcements of anything, mostly the Smash line as we established here in this video, but in a couple of other cases, they've restocked some specific series amiibo with the specific game announcement, the most notable one being Byleth getting restocked right before 3 Hopes was announced. Because all of these amiibo are getting restocked, the logical conclusion that people have come to on the internet is that this must be the day that the Switch 2 is getting revealed. Or at the very least, the window that it's getting revealed. Within this year, maybe a 6-week window starting at the end of October into early December. And the reason for that is because, logically, obviously, if there's a Switch 2 reveal trailer or reveal event, there's going to be a 3D Mario there. Of course. I mean, obviously, 3D Mario is going to be announced there. I actually do agree with that. Whenever the Switch console is revealed, this new Nintendo handheld hardware, whatever, there will be a new 3D Mario there. I agree with that. So that's why they're restocking the Super Mario Bros. Rosalina and Boo, and the Wedding Mario, because naturally, they got to hype up this new 3D Mario. The Smash Bros. Series 2 amiibo, I guess, are getting restocked because people think that means there will be either more content added to Smash Bros. Or a deluxe port. I don't really know. All of those Zelda amiibo are getting reprinted because the rumored Gamescom 60 FPS 4K Breath of the Wild demo maybe is releasing on the Switch 2. Maybe a Tears of the Kingdom native ports or a Tears of the Kingdom deluxe version that has some extra content because we didn't get DLC for that game. Maybe that's the thinking there. And then, of course, with Metroid Samus, I mean, that's obviously Prime 4. So instead of thinking that maybe Nintendo was just restocking Smash Bros. Generic amiibo Mario Amiibo, and a ton of Zelda Amiibo, instead of just thinking, oh, they're just restocking those because it's Christmas and people are gonna buy a lot of stuff. Instead of thinking that, the more logical thing is that they're announcing new games in all of these series, and new hardware is being revealed in November. Now, like I said at the top of the video, I actually love theories like this. I love when you have the chalkboard up and you're connecting all the dots. I like stuff like this. I like looking into Nintendo patterns. It is very satisfying, and I do enjoy it. And like I said, I do think November 10th is a little weird, specifically because of the Pokemon with the DLC releasing on November 3rd. That is weird. If they don't have something else for November 10th, why would they not just release that day? There's no reason to release it the same day as WarioWare and the Zelda and Ganondorf Amiibo, so why not put that November 10th and let it breathe a little bit? But I just think jumping from, oh, maybe it's another game release, to it's the reveal of a new console, and the console's probably coming out in March, and they're going to announce Smash Ultimate Deluxe, or new content for Smash, Breath of the Wild at 4K, and 3D Mario, and Prime 4, that's just a really big jump. Like I said, I think it's sus. I think November 10th is just a little weird there. It is a little empty there, but there's a couple things I want to mention. First things first, Nintendo traditionally almost has nothing in November. So while yes, I agree, Pokemon being November 3rd is a little weird, typically, Nintendo has nothing for November except for Pokemon. Now, this year we're not getting a mainline Pokemon game, but Nintendo is padding that out themselves with WarioWare and Super Mario RPG. If we were getting a new traditional, like, big Pokemon game, we would probably have seen those releases scattered out a little bit more, maybe in September. I know a lot of people were talking about the September gap. Maybe Mario RPG would have released there, or WarioWare, because that's when Get It Together came out in 2021. So, considering they almost never even have their own games outside of Pokemon in November, I just feel like you can't really look at November 10th and really scrutinize it and say, that's really weird, because typically they don't have anything in November, like I said, except for Pokemon. At least in the Switch generation, let me clarify. Back in 3DS and Wii U, they were loading up games in November, but that has not been the case for many years. Reprinting the Samus from the Metroid line of Amiibo specifically that's interesting, but I feel like a more logical jump you could make, based on all of the data, because most of those are restocks were a few weeks before, maybe a month or two before the announcement that they are supposedly tied to, the more logical assumption than, oh, they're revealing new hardware this year, or in November, or whatever the case, the more logical thing that you could say is, oh, maybe Metroid Prime 4 is going to show up at the Game Awards? I feel like that makes way more sense. Because, and I just have to say this, I don't think there's any remote chance that Nintendo would announce this hardware this year at this point. If it was going to be announced this year, okay, let's just play into the Switch 2 fantasy here, as we like to do. Let's just say that the Switch 2 is releasing in March, right, of 2024. Let's just assume that, as a lot of people have convinced themselves. They would have revealed it in September, I think. They're not going to reveal new hardware 2 weeks before Black Friday. That does not make any sense. And yes, I know the US isn't the only market, but revealing it 2 weeks before Black Friday, that just makes actually no marketing sense. If they were going to reveal it this year, it would have been revealed already. There is no doubt in my mind about that. It probably would have been either around the time of that Direct in September, maybe around the time of Nintendo Live, or maybe even in the summer if it's releasing early next year. I know a lot of people want to look at what they did with the NX back in 2016, and I get that. That was a very different Nintendo and a very different situation. The NX was revealed in October, so I get the thinking of, oh, they're going to reveal it in the fall, but that was during the Wii U. Nintendo's lineup this holiday for the Nintendo Switch is Detective Pikachu Returns, which doesn't look good at all, but it is a Pokemon game, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, which will probably sell 20 million copies, WarioWare Move It, and Super Mario RPG. So obviously Mario Wonder is the biggest thing there. The rest of those are comparably kind of niche, except for Detective Pikachu, although that is a spinoff of Pokemon, so it probably won't do that well. For comparison, in 2016, you want to know what their holiday games were? On October 6th, I believe I'm getting that date right, Paper Mario Color Splash released for the Wii U, and Sun and Moon came out in November. I think under those circumstances, revealing a new piece of hardware in 2016, it was just a little bit different than it would be to reveal a new console right before Black Friday in 2023. So playing into the idea that the Switch 2 is coming out early next year, like a lot of people believe, if that were to happen, it would absolutely happen in January. It is not happening this year, guys. The dream is dead. They are not revealing new hardware this year. There's literally, I would say, like maybe less than a 1% chance. I get it. It's exciting. We want to see the new Nintendo hardware as soon as possible, but let's just take a step back, reel in those expectations, and think about this from the actual company standpoint. Why would they do that? And I see these posts all the time on Twitter and stuff like, oh, people are just saying they don't want to announce something because of a game release. I don't buy into all that. Like, I don't think, oh, they can't have a direct the day before or the day after a game comes out. Like, I see that a lot. I don't think that's the case, but revealing new hardware is a little different, and revealing it right before Black Friday would undoubtedly hurt the sales, which the Nintendo Switch, might I remind you, in the US is getting a new Mario-themed OLED and 2 Animal Crossing Switch Lite bundles that are very competitive when you consider the fact that they're $200 and they include New Horizons. I know it's an old game, but that's still $60. That's a pretty competitive bundle, on top of the annual Mario Kart 8 Deluxe bundle for the regular Switch. Why would they reveal new hardware when they're pushing all of that product? That just doesn't make any sense. So if it's coming out early next year, at this point, the earliest it would be revealed is January. Like, there's no doubt about that. But on my closing note here, I will say, November 10th, as someone who analyzes Nintendo way more than I should, November 10th is a little weird. I know I kind of, like, went against that by saying that usually November's empty, but of course this year's different because there's no new mainline Pokemon game. November 10th is weird, and I don't think it's impossible that they release something else that day. I mean, it's September 27th, and we just got the announcement that they're re-releasing Scarlet and Violet with the DLC on November 3rd, so that's what, like a 5-week gap? They could totally announce a game for November 7th. I don't think they're going to. I think that November 10th is probably just the day they were like, let's just restock a ton of Amiibo. It's Christmas. Let's just get this out of the way. But, and I joked about this on Twitter with Switch Force, they, like, what if they did Ring Fit 2? And there's a ton of Amiibo costumes, and that's all it was. You know, Nintendo announces these casual games on Twitter, Everybody Want to Switch, Big Brain Academy. These are the types of games they announce on Twitter. I'm not fully expecting one of those this year, but they could announce that still for November 10th, like next week. That could happen. So really, to wrap it all up here, I just have to say the logic jump from, oh, they're restocking Amiibo on November 10th to we're getting the Switch hardware reveal with a new 3D Mario Smash Deluxe, Breath of the Wild 4K, and Metroid Prime 4 on Switch 2. That is a huge leap in faith. It's just a huge leap in faith. And I know I haven't seen like too many people talking about this, but I've seen a couple people, so I wanted to make a video on it because I love theories like this, but at the same time, we have to be a little bit more realistic, I think. So that is going to do it for this video. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Do you buy into the Amiibo restock theory going on in the Nintendo community right now? Or do you think it's all bogus? Either way, I think it's really fun to talk about just because I do love Nintendo like theories like this and patterns. But I just wanted to make a video talking about it because I just think it's a lot of fun. So let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Of course, subscribe here for more Nintendo coverage like this pretty much each and every day. And until next time, folks, peace.